Hi everyone, I am Toby Tungle with AVNation coming to you from ISE 2023 in wonderful Barcelona. I'm here with Paul from Atlona. Paul, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Loving life. How's the show been so far?
It's been fantastic. We've had a lot of traffic through our booth. It's great to have everybody back together again for ISE.
Understatement of the year. I
Yeah.
keep hearing that as I walk
Yeah.
through booths. And yesterday there was so many people on the floor, so many new connections. It's really great to see people are coming out in full force to really bring on what Pro AV is about, the people and the technology, right?
Yes.
So let's dive right in. We've got some really cool things in the booth we're going to see today, and I see that we've got a potential new launch over here that's pretty exciting. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we've got our OmniStream product is a networked AV system for 1 gig networks that we've had in the market since 2017. And we're really excited. We've got a major new firmware update that we're announcing. It's OmniStream 2.0 firmware. And this really takes the unparalleled video quality that OmniStream is known for and takes it to a whole nother level. So we've got support for 4K 60 444 on gigabit networks, 4K 60 fast switching, and probably the marquee feature of this release is our new multi-view in the decoder, where you can take multiple streams off of a network and composite them in the decoder. And so now you can get windowing type applications without requiring any additional equipment in your system.
That's fantastic, right? That windowing piece, there's so many more applications that are driving that need. I personally like it because I'm kind of a techie nerd from that perspective, but certainly as more and more technology advances, people are looking for how they can set up a different conference room a different way, distribute video and audio and things like that. You mentioned 4K, so 4K 60
Yes.
on that. So this is like the $1 million question. How's the supply chain looking for this? Is it looking good?
Yeah, it's looking good. We're in stock with OmniStream, and this
Oh.
is just going to be a firmware update for those products that we currently have.
Hard stop, in stock, ready to go soon.
In stock now.
Oh, in stock.
Firmware will be ready
So
to
in
go
stock,
soon.
ready to ship now, firmware soon.
Yes,
Love that.
absolutely.
The fact that you actually have stock and ready to ship, I think, is worth $1 million.
Yes.
So you should buy all the Atlona you could possibly get. Is there anything else over there that before we go and take a peek at it that you want to maybe talk about on a high level relative to the product itself or the firmware update coming? Any top secret little things?
Nothing top secret. We're pretty much full disclosure here at the show, but a couple other features is we've added encoder thumbnails, which means now that the user can basically pick their source on one of our Velocity touch panels or another touch panel, just by seeing the content. They're not just seeing a label that says Blu-ray or laptop or media player. They're actually seeing some content that they're showing on the, they pick the content and send it to the screen.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's in this real time, no latency issues relative to that?
No latency, subframe latency, and with our 4K 60 fast switching, it switches instantly.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to go check it out. Let's
Yeah,
go check
absolutely.
it out. All right, Paul, we are over here at the OmniStream demo. This stuff looks fantastic.
Thank
Let's see kind of what this thing's doing for you.
Yeah,
guys.
so what we've done is we're taking advantage of our new OmniStream 2.0 firmware and built out some use cases that we're showing off that's really demonstrating what we can do with the multi-view capabilities in our new firmware. So we have a number of applications that we built. For example, in an education type setting, you might have a situation where you have a presenter or a lecturer in a classroom, they're showing content on a screen. But if you want to use OmniStream to distribute that content over the network into an overflow room, for example, you can now take the stream from the camera and the stream from the content and composite them in real time in the overflow room. And because you have all of these streams on the network, you can do things very flexibly, like you can pick different pieces of content to show, or you can change which camera's being viewed. Or if you say, well, a PIP isn't really the right layout for my application, you can do something like you can change it up into a side-by-side if you don't want to cover any of your content.
That's really good. So, especially in a higher education facility that maybe has a guest speaker or a guest lecturer and they want to have other people in another room, or perhaps they want to feed it out into a more common area for other people to experience. This is really, really good for that, right? So, and I love that you have the multi-window capabilities in there because depending on what the content is, and it's kind of a, dare I say, mini broadcast ability to actually pick and choose that layout on the fly with almost like ease of use. I just saw you do that. It took no time at all, but certainly the experience that the students would get to be able to have is just phenomenal.
Exactly, and because all the content exists on the network, you can be very flexibly choosing which cameras, which content, and in which rooms. So very easy to control, really well suited for the education application.
Great.
So we're also showing a corporate application where you might have a dual screen boardroom, for example. And a lot of times what's going to be most common here is you're just going to be going in and picking different pieces of content to show on each of the different screens. But maybe you have an application where you've got 4 different people bringing content into a space, you can really easily then split the views and show different content in different regions on those 2 screens. So now you're taking your 2 screens in your room and you're actually making more use out of them in that space.
I love it. It was clean. The switching of that, which we'll hopefully grab some camera footage of, it was fast. There was no latency behind it. It was switching right on the fly. The video looks fantastic. It's gorgeous. It's full 4K. I can see a ton of use cases for this, especially in the corporate world. Because to your point, if they're working in an ad hoc environment, which is what we're all doing, or hybrid, if you want to call it that way, they don't really know what they need till they get into the space and they move things around. And that flexibility, I think, is really, really critical for a lot of organizations today.
That's right.
So is there one more layout that you
I've
have?
got one more use case to show, and that's it's also going to be really well suited for like network operation environments or other scenarios where you want to maybe, again, it's about like screen density, content density. So what you can do with our multi-view is you could do things like build up a quad view like this. But then, of course, because that content is on the network, if you then say, I want to take one of these sources and send it to a screen to sort of see in full 4K the full image, you can do that. And so it allows for a lot of flexibility when you want to have dense views, when you want to have unique layouts, or when you want to view that sort of high fidelity 4K content.
I love it. And the key there, I love 4K, and it's 1 gig.
Only
1 gig networks. And I think that's critical that we mentioned that. I think we mentioned it over there as well. But the backplane that's needed for that is so much less, and so much less cost for customers when they're deploying things like this.
That's right.
And it makes things so much more simple for them as well. So I think, as customers are start to look through what their network over IP looks like, or video over IP, this is a fantastic solution for that, because it doesn't require a lot of heavy lift on the back end, perhaps, if they already have 1 gig networks, which a lot of customers already do.
That's right.
And they're not having to, do a rip and replace and spend network budget on top of Pro AV budget from that perspective.
Exactly, and they can use all of their existing cable infrastructure as well.
That's a good point as well.
Which is a real cost.
Yes. As an IT guy, you're 100% right with that. So I love it. Is there anything else you want to talk about with this?
Yeah, really. The only other thing that I'll mention is that we talked about the 4K 60 fast switching capabilities, and this is a really powerful if you're doing that kind of live presentation where you want everything to look very polished. And so what we're able to do is with our new firmware, we're switching 4K 60 content, and it's fast switched. So there's essentially no black. It just immediately cuts from one image to the next.
Yeah, and it's probably a little hard to pick up on the camera feed, but it was, and maybe the math's not right, but it was like a millisecond or 2 that it actually flipped. There's no delay on it.
It's pretty much instantaneous, and it doesn't go through black. It doesn't tear. It's very quick.
Right, which a lot of the black screen kind of merge over or whatever, and this was really smooth.
So if you're in a live presentation environment, this just makes everything look a little bit more polished.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, Paul, thank you very much, sir. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
I really appreciate the time. If you guys are looking for more fun of what we're doing at ISE on the floor, go to avnation.tv.